I saved $40 million for my son and daughter, believing they'd cherish me in return. Instead, they tossed me out like trash, treating me worse than a beggar. What they didn't know was, I had a plan. And by the time they realized, it was far too late. Before continue, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. That's free and only way to support us. Thank you. My name is Walter Green. I'm 72 years old. Once upon a time, I was the man with the sharpest suits in the room and a bank balance fatter than a Thanksgiving turkey. $40 million. That's what I built, saved, invested, and hid away like a squirrel preparing for nuclear winter. Not for me. I was never one for gold watches or yachts with jacuzzis on the bow. I saved it for them, my son, Nathan, and my daughter, Olivia. They were my everything. And I mean everything. I stayed up sick nights when Nathan had fevers. I taught Olivia to ride her bike even though she kept veering into the neighbors' roses like a drunk bee. I never missed a birthday. I even learned how to braid hair watching YouTube videos. Not easy when you're all thumbs and arthritis. But time, as it often does, has a wicked sense of humor. It started slowly, phone calls unanswered, visits rescheduled, and then cancelled. I chalked it up to busy lives. Careers, kids, mortgage stress. I understood. I had lived that life. I had worked myself to the bone to give them everything I never had. I figured if I could carry the load for 40 years, they could carry me just a little in return. Then came the day that changed everything. I remember it like the scent of hospital antiseptic, bitter and unforgettable. I had tripped in the bathroom, slipped on the edge of the rug. No big drama, but my hip wasn't exactly built for ballet anymore. I called Nathan. Straight to voicemail. I tried Olivia. No response. My neighbor, bless her nosy soul, found me limping and drove me to urgent care. She stayed with me, fed me soup, and even folded my laundry. My own children? Ghosts. Like I was some old appliance in the attic. Forgotten. Rusting. Eventually they came. But not to help, oh no, nothing that sweet. They came to talk. They said it was time I left the house. My house. The one I paid for. The one with the swing set I built by hand. The one where Nathan broke his arm falling off the monkey bars, and where Olivia brought home her first goldfish that died in 2 hours. That house. Gone. Just like that. They said I was a burden. A burden. Me. The man who paid for their college, who bailed them out of credit card hell, who kept quiet when they borrowed money and never returned it. The man who skipped dream vacations to Disney just to save for their future. And now, the same kids tossed me out like a half-eaten sandwich. I didn't cry. Not then. I smiled. Yes, I smiled. Because in that moment, standing on the porch with nothing but a small suitcase, I realized something they didn't know. A secret. A glorious, dangerous secret. They thought I had given them everything. They were wrong. They thought I was old, powerless, and forgotten. They were very wrong. What they didn't know was that the $40 million I saved. It wasn't in their names. It wasn't in some trust they controlled. It was mine. Quietly tucked away in real estate, gold, offshore accounts, and a few secrets only I and a very shady Swiss banker knew about. They wanted to see a burden? I was about to show them a storm. And oh, did it brew. Because the man they called a beggar had just been given the ultimate gift. Freedom with a vengeance. Stay tuned. This story is just getting started. The motel room smelled like wet carpet and forgotten dreams. I sat on the lumpy bed with a bag of peanuts from the vending machine and a plastic cup of lukewarm coffee. Welcome to my new home, courtesy of my own flesh and blood. A flickering bulb buzzed like it had a grudge against me, and the air conditioner coughed more than it cooled. But I didn't care. I wasn't here to rest. I was here to plot. They didn't just kick me out. They erased me. Nathan changed the locks on the house. Olivia had blocked my number. The family group chat? Gone. I was deleted like a spam email. But they made one big mistake. They thought I had nothing left. In that crusty motel, I started flipping through my old notebooks, the ones filled with every investment, every property deed, every quiet little business I built under their radar. I hadn't just saved money. I had built an empire of shadows. Storage units in Nevada packed with antique furniture. A vintage car collection in Florida under a cousin's name. Gold coins buried, literally, in a cabin upstate. And then there was the jewel of it all. A tech company I invested in 14 years ago, back when it was just two nerds in a garage. They begged me for $50,000 to stay afloat. I gave it. They promised I'd never regret it. They were right. Last year, they sold the company to a major player. My silent shares? Worth $12 million alone. So yeah, I wasn't broke. But I wanted them to believe I was. There's something about being underestimated that's delicious. Like people looking at an old dog and thinking it can't bite. But they forget, old dogs know where the bones are buried. The first step of my plan was simple. Vanish. I needed time, space, and silence. So I called an old friend, Marvin. He ran a fishing shack down in Mississippi, one of those forgotten places where nobody asks questions, and the Wi-Fi still wheezes like it's on dial-up. Marvin owed me big time from the days when I helped him get out of tax trouble without the IRS finding out he rode off a boat as a therapy necessity. He didn't ask why I needed a place. He just said, "Got a trailer out back. Smells like fish. You'll hate it." Perfect. I left the motel that night, took a Greyhound 3 states away. Didn't use credit cards, paid cash. I erased myself so clean, even Google would have given up. And while I sat in that creaky trailer surrounded by bait buckets and mosquito armies, I made a list. A long one. Not of what I'd lost, but what I was going to take. You see, revenge isn't about rage. It's about patience. Cold, calculated patience. You don't scream when someone stabs you in the back. You wait until they turn around. Nathan was climbing his way into the local politics scene. Councilman. Wearing suits he didn't pay for and shaking hands like he wasn't the same boy who once peed in the pool and blamed the dog. Olivia had married into a wealthy family. Thought she'd hit the jackpot. She had no clue half of her husband's construction empire was actually mortgaged through shell companies I helped structure in the 90s. I knew how the game worked. I built the board they were playing on. But they thought they were kings now. Thought they were untouchable. That made it easy. I started pulling strings. Quietly. A call here. A meeting there. An old favor cashed in. I reached out to attorneys, auditors, journalists, all under aliases. I wore a fake mustache once, for fun. Marvin laughed so hard, he choked on catfish. But underneath the jokes and the disguises, the plan was unfolding like clockwork. They wouldn't see me coming. And when I did show up, let's just say they'd wish I had stayed a beggar. Revenge isn't loud. It's a whisper that grows teeth. 3 weeks after disappearing into Marvin's mosquito-filled backyard, the game began. Nathan was the first target. Not because I hated him more, but because, frankly, his ego was the size of a parade float, and I knew it would pop with just a tiny needle. He had a fundraiser gala coming up. Big deal. His face was plastered on every street lamp in town. Integrity. Family. Vision. The irony made my dentures ache. He'd been using my house for political shoots, that same house I was kicked out of, posing in front of my rose bushes, talking about core values. I made a single phone call. A journalist named Terry owed me one. Years ago, I had leaked him a tip about a corrupt bank manager laundering money through daycare centers. He got a Pulitzer. I got silence. Now I cashed in. I gave him a name, Daniel Prescott, Nathan's campaign manager. Slick as oil and twice as slimy. I knew things about Daniel, things that never made it into campaign bios. He once forged charity receipts for tax write-off. He ran ghost donors through fake LLCs. I had paperwork, copies, names. Terry sniffed blood. The article dropped on a Monday morning. By Tuesday, the campaign account was frozen for an audit. By Wednesday, Nathan was on local TV, sweating like a crook in church, denying everything with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I watched it all from Marvin's flickering TV, eating fried catfish and chuckling between bites. But I wasn't done. I made sure to send Nathan a letter. No return address. Typed clean, sharp. It simply said, "Remember the man you called a burden? He remembers you." I could almost hear him scream from states away. Next was Olivia. Now Olivia was smart. Sharp as broken glass and twice as cold. But she had a weakness, her image. She built her world around it. Instagram-perfect dinners, designer shoes, filtered smiles. But most importantly, she managed her husband's real estate portfolio. A portfolio with a soft underbelly. You see, I helped Olivia's husband's father years ago. Set up a bunch of commercial properties through trusts and offshore names. Legit, but complicated. I still had copies of the old paperwork, ones the new generation never bothered to update properly. They thought everything was in their name. Wrong. Some of those properties? Legally still under a holding group I controlled. Not all, but enough. I called a lawyer, a quiet bulldog named Patel, and started the paperwork to reclaim them. No drama, no lawsuit. Just a quiet legal transfer. Patel was a master at red tape. And Olivia? She didn't see it coming. Within a month, 3 prime office buildings in downtown went into a surprise ownership dispute. Tenants got notices. Rent got redirected. Investors started panicking. And Olivia? She posted a story about needing a social media detox. I couldn't stop laughing. But through it all, I stayed invisible. No calls. No texts. No footprints. They thought the world was crumbling randomly. But I was behind every tremor. Marvin started calling me the puppet grandpa. Said I was like a cross between Clint Eastwood and a tax accountant. Life in that trailer was still awful. The mattress had a spring that jabbed me like it held a grudge. The toilet gurgled at night like it was haunted. But I slept like a baby. Because I knew I wasn't just getting revenge. I was taking back power. They had taken my kindness for weakness. They thought they'd inherited a tired old man. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't finished. In fact, I was just getting started. And the next move? Wouldn't just rattle them. It would destroy everything they thought they owned. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Nathan always wanted to be the next big thing. City council wasn't enough for him. He had dreams of Congress. He practiced his speeches in front of mirrors, smiling like he was auditioning for toothpaste commercials. But now, with the Prescott scandal festering like a bad rash, and with Terry's articles turning up dirt like a bloodhound on espresso, Nathan's public image was wobbling. He tried to hold on, hired a PR guy, held a unity breakfast at a local church, gave out free pancakes, but when the money trail kept circling back to him and the audits wouldn't stop, the party cut ties. Like rats from a sinking ship. That was when I knew he'd call. And he did. Blocked number. One word. Dad. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready for mercy. Not yet. Olivia's situation wasn't much better. The reclaimed properties stirred up legal chaos. She held emergency meetings with lawyers, investors, and anyone willing to pretend they could fix it. Her in-laws started poking around, asking questions she couldn't answer. Her husband, always suspicious of her fancy lifestyle, suddenly wasn't so warm. The cracks in her perfect image widened. She posted nothing for 10 days. No selfies, no morning smoothie bowls, not even a birthday shout-out to her dog, which she once described as her soulmate. I watched them crumble from Marvin's trailer with all the calm of a retired spy. But the sweetest part? They still didn't know it was me. That old man with the coffee stains on his shirt and mothball scent, the one they tossed out like rotting groceries, he was now the ghost haunting their lives. And just when they thought the worst was over, I struck again. You see, there's one thing I never told them. The house. Yes, the house they kicked me out of. The one they paraded realtors through, planning to sell it and move into something more modern. The one with the fireplace Olivia was born next to, and the garage where Nathan and I fixed up his first bike. That house? Still in my name. They forgot that little detail in their rush to boot me out. Assumed they had power of attorney. Assumed wrong. You never assume anything with a man who once hid a $2 million gold bar in a garden gnome just to test a bank's security response. So I called in another favor, this time from a retired sheriff who owed me a favor from the time I helped him keep a gambling problem quiet. One eviction notice, hand-delivered, to my old front door. When Nathan opened it, holding a coffee in one hand and a smug grin on his face, I was told he went pale. Like ghost pale. The sheriff didn't need to explain much. Just handed him the papers, smiled, and tipped his hat. Olivia showed up 20 minutes later. She screamed. Neighbors peeked out. People started filming. It was all so poetic. Within 3 days they were out. Boxes on the lawn. Movers dragging furniture. A security guard changing locks while Olivia cried into a cashmere throw pillow. And me? I stood across the street in a rental car, sipping sweet tea. Marvin made it himself. Said it needed more lemon. I thought it tasted just right. That house wasn't just bricks and wood. It was the first place I learned what betrayal felt like. And now it was mine again. Empty. But clean. I didn't plan on moving back in. No. I had other plans. Bigger. Wilder. Because this wasn't just about kicking them back out. This was about making them feel what I felt. The sting of being unwanted, the taste of being small, and the cold shock of losing everything you thought was yours. And the next phase? Would leave no doubt. This old man wasn't just fighting back. He was rewriting the whole story. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. There's something strange about silence. After the chaos, after the screaming, the cameras, the locked doors, and Olivia's mascara-streaked breakdown in the front yard, it got quiet. A cold, sharp quiet. But I didn't mind. I sat in the back of Marvin's rusty pickup, staring at the horizon with a smile on my face like I just stole Christmas. That house was mine again, sure. But revenge wasn't just about reclaiming property. It had to be deeper. Smarter. It had to sting. That's when I remembered the envelope. I kept it in a fireproof box, back when I still trusted banks about as much as I trusted pigeons not to poop on my car. It was a will. Handwritten, notarized, witnessed. Updated every few years, tucked behind photos of me holding baby Nathan, and Olivia in her ballet costume, back when they looked at me like I was Superman, not a burden. They had no idea it existed. You see, the official version of my will, the one they knew about, had everything split equally between them. Simple. Clean. But that was never the real one. The real one was different. Years ago I added a clause. A brutal one. If they ever abandoned me, if I was ever mistreated or neglected, the entire inheritance would reroute. To charity. To shelters. To food banks. to veterans, to people who knew what real struggle looked like and didn't throw away the hands that fed them. It was poetic, really. Their greed had canceled their golden ticket, and they didn't even know it. But I wasn't ready to activate it yet. No. I wanted them to ask about it. So I started rumors. Quiet ones. A message left with an old family attorney. A whisper dropped into a church bingo night that Mr. Green left everything to someone unexpected. I even paid a not-so-sober mall Santa to mention to Livia's kids that Grandpa was giving away treasure to strangers. Within days, I got the text. Blocked number again. Dad, can we talk? I didn't reply. 2 days later, another one. Please. We need to see you. It's important. Now we were cooking. I called an old friend, a theater actor named Jules, who once played Macbeth in a strip mall Shakespeare tour. I hired him to be my legal executor. I told him, just act confused, drop some mysterious phrases, and make sure they think the inheritance is still on the table, but slipping. He met them at a fancy cafe, wore sunglasses indoors, ordered oysters he didn't eat, and then said something that changed everything. He hasn't decided yet. You know how Walter is. He changes his mind, depending on who shows him love. Oh, you should have seen how fast their smiles returned. I was suddenly Dad again. Nathan sent me a fruit basket. Olivia sent a handwritten card. A handwritten card. From the same woman who once texted me while sitting in the same room. Then came the calls. Dad, we miss you. Dad, you're not alone, okay? It was hilarious. Sweet. Pitiful. I ignored every one of them. Because the more desperate they became, the deeper the cracks formed. They started fighting with each other. Accusations flew. Olivia blamed Nathan for ruining the campaign. Nathan accused Olivia of mishandling the properties. Their once perfect image shattered like cheap wine glasses at a bad wedding. Meanwhile, I made a new will. An even better one. Not only were they cut out completely, but I also left a small, humiliating message in the legal clause. A reminder of what betrayal cost, and what real love looks like. The best part? I didn't need to die for them to see it, because the next phase was going to bring them face to face with my truth. And trust me, it wasn't going to be served with cake. I had them dancing now. Olivia and Nathan, the same two who threw me out like an expired carton of milk, were now circling like vultures, but this time they weren't hunting. They were hoping, begging, desperate to claw their way back into the story. But the story was mine now, and I wasn't done writing it. Marvin thought I was being cruel. He said, "Maybe you're enjoying this too much, Walt." I looked at him, chewing on a fried pickle, and said, "I'm just getting started." It was time to let them see me again. Not the old, tired version they discarded, but the version they forgot existed. So, I cleaned up, shaved the beard, cut the wild hair, put on a navy blue blazer that hadn't seen the light of day since Obama's first term. And then I did something bold, something theatrical, something delicious. I bought a billboard, right outside Nathan's campaign headquarters. Big, bold letters, just 6 words. I'm not dead. I'm watching, WG. That little message set the whole city buzzing. People asked questions. Was I alive? Was I angry? Was I coming back? The media picked it up. Toxic family feud? They called it. I didn't deny it. In fact, I called the same reporter, Terry, and invited him to Marvin's shack. I gave him the real scoop. All of it. The eviction. The motel. The betrayal. And the revenge. He didn't believe me at first. Until I handed him the document. Property titles. Legal filings. Text messages. Even a photo of the eviction notice clutched in Nathan's trembling hand. He didn't publish the whole story right away. No, he said he wanted to do it right. A full exposé. Sunday paper. A piece titled, "The Billionaire Grandpa They Threw Away." Yeah, that headline sang. Meanwhile, Nathan and Olivia were panicking. My burner phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls. Voicemails. Apologies wrapped in syrupy voices that made me want to gag. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent them both a package. Inside, a single photo. Me. Standing in front of my house. The real house. The one they lost. With a "for sale" sign out front. I added a handwritten note at the back of the photo. Legacy doesn't come from blood. It comes from behavior. That was the moment everything snapped. Olivia showed up at Marvin's place 2 days later. Unannounced. Makeup smeared, hair wild, eyes like she hadn't slept in a week. She screamed the moment she saw me. "You planned this. You planned all of this." I sipped my lemonade. "I didn't plan it, sweetheart. You caused it." Nathan came a day later. All bark, no bite. "You've ruined us." I laughed. Loud. The kind of laugh that comes from deep in your chest, the kind that tastes like freedom. "No, son. You did. I just gave you the mirror." They begged. Swore they'd change. Tried to hug me. I backed away. Because I wasn't done. See, the money they wanted? Already gone. Donated. Every last penny. Schools, hospitals, homeless shelters. I made sure every dollar of that $40 million made someone else's life better. People who needed it. People who earned it. But I saved one thing. Just one. A trust fund for my grandkids. Not Nathan's. Not Olivia's. My other grandkids. From a daughter they never knew I had. Yeah. That's right. Years ago I made a mistake. Fell in love before I met their mother. We lost touch. But she had a daughter, my daughter. And she found me just a year before all this chaos. Her name's Maya. Single mom. Works 2 jobs. Never asked for a dime. Calls me every Sunday just to say, "Hi, Grandpa." So I gave her everything. A house. A future. Stability. She earned what they threw away. And now? They had to live knowing that. The legacy they thought they deserved? Handed to a stranger. A better daughter. A better family. Because blood is not loyalty. And loyalty is not words. It's action. They forgot that. But I never did. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. When word got out that I had donated every cent of my fortune, every dollar, every asset, every secret stockpile they never knew about, it was like watching an earthquake unfold in slow motion. The green name was in headlines, but not for the reasons Nathan and Olivia had planned. No glamorous magazine spreads. No interviews about multigenerational wealth or family entrepreneurship. No, this was different. Local billionaire donates entire estate after being abandoned by own children. That headline alone made Nathan's phone explode. He tried to spin it. He called it fake news. He held a press conference with his tie crooked and his mouth full of nervous lies. But reporters didn't buy it anymore. Not after the receipts Terry dropped in part 2 of his exposé. Photos of me in the motel. Statements from the church that took me in. Testimonies from my old employees, people I quietly paid severance to even after they quit. Every detail was real. Every betrayal documented. And the public? They weren't on my kids' side. The comments were brutal. They called Nathan a disgrace. Called Olivia a parasite. Their friends started ghosting them. Business deals fell through. Sponsors vanished. You know that saying, you reap what you sow? Well, their harvest came in fast, and it was all thorns. Olivia's husband filed for separation. Claimed financial deception and emotional instability. She tried to fix it, posting long, teary apologies online, pretending like she found religion or enlightenment. One post even had a quote about forgiveness pasted over a sunset background. The comments? Full of clown emojis. Nathan, meanwhile, tried to pivot to a humble community man image. Started volunteering at soup kitchens. Handed out turkeys at a food drive. But people saw through it. He got heckled at every public event. At one town hall meeting, someone shouted, "You going to throw the mayor out next too?" Even I laughed when I heard that one. They didn't just lose money. They lost their image. Their power. Their control. I stayed far from it all. Watched it unravel like a cheap sweater from the comfort of a cozy cabin Maya helped me move into. Quiet. Peaceful. No noise except for birds, wind, and occasionally Marvin showing up with a fishing rod and a case of bad joke. But then one day, about a month into their public downfall, I got a knock on the door. It was Olivia. No makeup. No designer bag. Just her, standing there like the wind had knocked the last of her pride off her shoulders. She didn't speak right away. She looked at the welcome mat, the trees, the chipped porch swing. She looked older, not in years, but in weight, like she was dragging a mountain behind her. "I didn't come for money," she finally said. I stayed silent. "I came because I remembered who you used to be." That hit me. At one town hall meeting, someone shouted, "You going to throw the mayor out next too?" Even I laughed when I heard that one. They didn't just lose money. They lost their image. Their power. Their control. I stayed far from it all. Watched it unravel like a cheap sweater from the comfort of a cozy cabin Maya helped me move into. Quiet. Peaceful. No noise except for birds, wind, and occasionally Marvin showing up with a fishing rod and a case of bad joke. But then one day, about a month into their public downfall, I got a knock on the door. It was Olivia. No makeup. No designer bag. Just her, standing there like the wind had knocked the last of her pride off her shoulders. She didn't speak right away. She looked at the welcome mat, the trees, the chipped porch swing. She looked older, not in years, but in weight, like she was dragging a mountain behind her. "I didn't come for money," she finally said. I stayed silent. "I came because I remembered who you used to be." That hit me. Because I remembered who she used to be too. A little girl who held my hand when she was scared of thunderstorms. The same girl who cried when her goldfish died and made me dig a grave behind the shed for it. A daughter who once gave me a macaroni necklace and told me I was her best man ever. That little girl? She wasn't in front of me now. But maybe, just maybe, a piece of her still existed under all that mess. I didn't say much. I just nodded. Told her I was glad she remembered. She didn't stay long. Didn't ask for anything. She just said, "I'm sorry," and left. It didn't fix anything. But it cracked the ice. The next day Nathan called. He didn't ask to visit. Just said he hoped I was okay. I didn't answer that one. Not yet. Because even though the empire they thought was theirs had collapsed, I needed them to understand something deeper. This wasn't about money. It never was. It was about value. About human value. The kind you can't measure in dollars or square footage. The kind you lose the moment you forget who held your hand when you had nothing. The thing about revenge is, it doesn't fill you the way people think it does. Oh, it's sweet at first. Like biting into a sugar-glazed donut after a year on a diet. You savor it. You smirk. You replay the fall of your enemies like a movie in your head. But after that, it gets quiet. And that's where I found myself, sitting on the porch of my cabin, sipping a mug of black coffee while the sun crawled up behind the trees. It was peaceful. Strangely peaceful. But that peace had an itch behind it. Because deep down, under the laughter and the gloating, there was still something left unsettled. Olivia's apology lingered like perfume on a jacket, not overpowering, just there. And Nathan's quiet message, asking nothing, felt different from all his past noise. For a moment I wondered if they were changing. Not because they wanted the money that ship had sunk, but because they finally saw the mess they'd made. But I wasn't about to jump back into family dinners and Sunday visits. No. You don't stitch up a broken bone with tape. You let it set, heal. Or sometimes, you let it stay broken, so it reminds you not to fall the same way again. Maya, meanwhile, was thriving. Her son, my grandson, was the kind of kid that made you believe in second chances. Curious eyes, big heart, always asking questions like, "Did you really fly a plane once, Grandpa?" I hadn't. But I let him believe I did. Made me feel younger. One afternoon, Maya and I were walking through the farmer's market. Someone recognized me. A local. Probably saw the article. They didn't ask for a selfie. Didn't ask for a donation. They just looked at me and said, "You did something most people never have the guts to do. You stood up for yourself." And that stuck with me. Because for years, I thought being a good father meant giving endlessly. Always saying yes. Always carrying the load without complaint. I thought love was sacrifice, no matter how deep the cut. But it turns out, love also means teaching people how not to treat you. Nathan and Olivia grew up thinking they were owed everything. But Maya? She thanked me every time I gave her anything. She called me when I didn't feel like a father. When I felt like a shell. She brought me soup when I sneezed once. She didn't have to be blood to act like family. And that's when I realized something important. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give someone else. It's a favor you do for yourself. So I wrote 2 letters. One for Olivia. One for Nathan. Nothing dramatic. No life lessons in bullet points. Just a note saying I hoped they'd find their way, and that maybe, someday we could share a meal again. As strangers, if not family. I didn't mail them yet. I left them in the drawer of my nightstand. Because timing matters. You don't plant seeds in winter and expect flowers in the morning. But one day, maybe when the frost melts from their egos, they'll be ready. Until then, I had a grandson who thought I was a secret superhero. I had Maya, who checked on me every night. I had a small house filled with peace instead of pride. And I had a heart no longer carrying the weight of bitterness. For a man once labeled a burden that felt pretty rich. It started with a knock. Not loud. Not hurried. Just steady. I was reading on the porch, an old western I'd read 5 times already. I knew how it ended. But something about an old cowboy finding justice in a lawless land always made me feel seen. I looked up, and there they were. Nathan and Olivia. No entourage. No assistants. Just them. Standing there like kids who'd broken a window and come back to confess. Nathan had lost weight. The tailored look was gone, replaced by jeans and a flannel shirt that probably hadn't seen an iron in years. Olivia had her hair tied up in a messy bun, no makeup, and she was holding something, a plastic container. It was shaking slightly in her hands. Neither spoke first. It was awkward, and I let it be awkward, because sometimes silence says everything. Finally, Olivia stepped forward. She held out the container. Lasagna. Homemade. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that was my favorite. The one I used to make every Christmas Eve, even when they'd moved on to catering and fancy restaurants. She remembered. They asked if they could sit. I didn't say yes. I just moved over and tapped the empty bench beside me. Nathan sat like he was afraid the wood would reject him. Olivia stayed standing. For a few minutes we just watched the trees sway. Then Nathan spoke. He didn't grovel. Didn't try to explain everything away. He just said he didn't realize how far he drifted, until he saw what real distance looked like. And it wasn't miles. It was how quickly love could be replaced by convenience. Olivia started crying halfway through her first sentence. Said she'd been wrong. Said she'd been blind. Said losing the house was like watching a piece of herself vanish, not because of the walls, but because of what those walls meant. I didn't cry, but my fingers curled tight around the armrest. Because hearing your children admit they broke you, that's not easy. Even when it's honest. Even when it's true. They didn't ask for money. Didn't ask to be added back to anything. They just asked if they could come around sometimes. Not to make up for the past, but to see what's left of the future. I looked at them. Two adults who finally looked like people, not brands or careers or reputations. And for the first time in years, I saw my kids again. Not the polished versions. The messy, fragile, real ones. So I told them something I hadn't said in a long time. Dinner's at 6. If you're late, I'm eating your share. They smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't come with conditions. That night, we sat around a table. Me, Nathan, Olivia, Maya, and her boy. The kid told jokes that made no sense. Maya rolled her eyes and passed bread. Olivia complimented the tablecloth like it was made of silk. Nathan asked if we still had that old board game we used to play, the one he always cheated at. We laughed. Not the fake kind. The real, belly-deep kind that shakes off years. And for the first time in a long, long while, that house felt like home again. There was no inheritance, no trust fund, no agenda, just a chair at the table. And sometimes that's all it takes. Life didn't go back to normal, because there was no normal to go back to. The past was broken, and some cracks stay visible no matter how much glue you use. But that was okay. We weren't aiming for perfect anymore, just honest. Maya's boy called Nathan Uncle Nate now. The first time it happened, Nathan froze like someone had just slapped him with a memory. But then he laughed. Not the politician's chuckle. A real, human laugh. Olivia started showing up every Sunday. No agenda. No Instagram selfies. Just her and a basket of whatever dessert she ruined that week. She still couldn't bake to save her life. Last time she brought muffins that could double as paperweights, but she tried. And that counted. As for me, I kept the cabin. Sold the old house. Not out of spite, I just didn't need it anymore. That place had ghosts in the walls. Too many echoes. Too many nights I stared at ceilings, wondering where I went wrong. I gave the sale money to a scholarship fund. Named it after my mother. The woman who raised me with calloused hands and hard truth. The one who used to say, don't count your love in what you give. Count it in who stays when you've got nothing left. Turns out, she was right all along. One night, Maya asked me something over dinner. Just a passing thought, really. She said, do you regret it? Giving it all away? And I didn't even have to think. Not a bit. Because I didn't lose anything. I gained something most people never get. Clarity. I saw my children for who they really were, and then, who they chose to become. I gave them the rope, yes. But it was their decision to either climb or hang. I had nothing left to prove. No gold-plated legacy to leave behind. Just a story. One that I knew people would talk about long after I was gone. The man who saved $40 million. And spent every last penny teaching his kids the one lesson they never learned growing up. That love isn't measured in inheritance. It's measured in how you treat the people who made you. I wrote my final will in 5 lines. To my daughter Maya, thank you for reminding me what kindness looks like. To Nathan and Olivia, I forgive you. But forgiveness isn't a pass. It's a path. To my grandson, never forget that money comes and goes, but people, they stay only if you water them. I folded the letter, placed it in a wooden box, and locked it away. No lawyers. No drama. Just truth. And that, my friend, was the last move. Not out of revenge, but out of peace. The kind of peace you earn after a lifetime of noise. So if you're watching this, wondering if revenge is worth it, here's my answer. Only if it teaches them something. Only if it frees you in the process. Because sometimes, walking away with nothing but your dignity? That's the biggest win of all. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. That's free and only way to support us. Thank you.